Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are on Friday, January 10th. We're going to take a look at RGTI today. So we haven't checked in on RGTI in a little while. We do have these two Fibonacci extensions in here that have actually held up remarkably well. You see the yellow one here is from this swing, right? Both of them are sort of a brief swing. So I was sort of curious / reluctant to see how well they would hold up. And the green one, very, very short swing, like a 3-candle swing. But what we see is, it struggled really hard on this 1997, which is on the fib. And then 2148 was 6 cents above where it topped out at 2142. That's a remarkable success, I would say, on a stock that's been so volatile. To come within 6 cents of that top, I mean, that's, to me, really amazing. And then yesterday, on the 9th, we got a minus 45% day on RGTI, and it followed that up with a minus 11% today. But where does it settle? Let's zoom in. It settles within 4 cents of this 839 that we had on the chart from the fib. This is a fib extension level. And it came within 4 cents. That's, again, remarkable. You see in the pre-market here, it was struggling at this 1106. You see when it opened, it came down, tested off this 941, ultimately rejected off of this 1023, fell through the 941, and has carried on sort of into the after hours. But I'm I'm happy that the fib works, but I'm always just perplexed, to be honest, that it does. I mean, look at how well these levels have held up. It's as if we drew them on the chart from previous price action, right? I mean, it's really tremendous. So that's where we are at the moment. Now, I guess the actual question that you came here for is not like, how great are your fib extensions, Dan? That's not what you're wondering, right? You're wondering what's happening. So, for one, there's now a huge gap here. So for folks who love to fixate on gaps, I'm not one of them. I will notice a gap. I will say, okay, if price action gets close to a gap, then maybe we pay attention to it. But there are people out there who just absolutely fixate on gaps. And so if you're one of those, there's now a gap that to the upside would close at 1755. So huge run room, right, from 893. It would get into that gap at 1292. Okay, so 1292 to 1755. Huge gap to the upside. Does it go there? And does it go there in any sort of meaningfully brief time frame, like relatively soon? I don't know. We'll see. But there is that. So that's one to keep in mind. While these levels have held up really well, all that really means is the downside you have 839 support, and to the upside you have 941 resistance. Those are the nearest in. You see 675 and 592 down here, and you see 1023 and 1106 up there. What I would actually probably gravitate toward is the EMA setup. Now what we see here is, while there was strong bullish momentum, we had the price action riding the 8 EMA, this white one right here, and just having a field day, right? Just bouncing off of it. Even on this day where it came down 30%, it bounced back with a plus 25% day, and then put in a plus 16% and plus 3 and plus 36, and just rode that 8. We see a different story now, we see not only has it fallen through the 8, but it's rejected the 21 yesterday, and today it's looking like it's rejecting the 34. So, my question here, I'm sort of like very pause and take this in at the moment, because the 8 is racing down, right? And it's racing down to maybe bearishly cross over the 21, and then maybe bearishly cross over the 34, and so on and so forth. So my question is sort of like, it kind of evolved off of this 183 EMA. I'm curious if it comes to interplay with that, which is around $3.50, $4 by the time it gets there, probably. I'm really curious to see, does it come all the way down there and sort of retest that range? I don't know. I would be reluctant to say yes, just because it didn't fly through that range. Typically, I look for a retest of that 183 if it kind of came through gangbusters, right, and sort of paid it no mind. But what it really did here was, for a pretty decent period of time, right, it came through, stayed relatively within range of the 183. It did retest it here, and then it came up, and then it retested the 21, and that's when it was like, hey, there's huge bullish momentum here, and that's where it really took off. So it did, to me, sort of pay it some heed. Now, it's extended so far beyond it, that's the question, is like, how far overextended is it? But the EMA setup here would give me tremendous caution in terms of where is this going. So, to me, it losing the 8 and immediately rejecting the 21, and then following that up with rejecting the 34 would sort of shout, hey, be very careful here. It's looking like the sellers sort of have the upper hand on this one at the moment. Now, that could change, of course. And, these periods of wild volatility in any stock are, hard to predict. So we read the tea leaves for what they are, but we know that they're still tea leaves, and the stock will do what it will do. But this, to me, looks like, I would tread with tremendous caution if I were an RGTI bull at the moment. I'm sure there's plenty of folks out there saying, buy the cheap shares, you'll never see this price again, da-da-da-da-da. I didn't look that up. I can't quote that, but I would bet that that's the case. Now, on the Thinkorswim side of things, it's actually in the channel. So even with these days, like we said, yesterday it was down 45%, and then today it was down over 11%. And still, that just brought it into the channel. So that was how crazy the bullish momentum was, that it was just riding outside of the channel predominantly, right? It had a brief sort of foray into the channel here, bounced straight out, exceeded the +1 ATR up here at 1733 for January. And when it drew back down hard, but it also just, because the volatility has been so crazy, it still is within the channel. So that's just sort of flabbergasting. We do see here on the histogram, TTM squeeze indicator, the bullish momentum just continuing to die down. Continuing to die down. But yeah, there's not a lot to glean off of this TTM squeeze indicator or the Thinkorswim setup, in and of itself, because to me it's just sort of like back into the channel. It's looking like it wants to sort of turn hard against the bulls, but to me the better look is really over here on the EMAs. This is, if I were in RGTI in any way, shape, or form, this is what I would gravitate to. I would have a strong eye on this, and I would be really concerned if that white crosses below the peach, that 8 crosses below the 21. I'd get pretty concerned. If this can't get like really quick and immediate relief of rejecting off of the 34, the red EMA, I would be pretty concerned if I were long RGTI. So this isn't to say anything about the company, it's not to say anything about the prospects or this, that, and the other thing. This is just the chart. This is just, to me, what the chart is looking like and what it's saying. So that's where my eyes would be. That said, these levels have held up shockingly well. So if it does bounce and does get motion back toward that 941, maybe see what happens, because there's a lot of solid levels here. There's a big gap. So if you're a gap hound and that's your sort of bread and butter, then go for it. But that's up to you. All right, folks, I hope that you've had a good trading week. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.